Yo YouTube everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be going through the new Toronto Ultra roster and just giving my thoughts overall. Obviously, you know, they came off I would say a pretty weird season, probably a declining season. Started off as the champs. As the season progressed, they went down, and then they kind of went up again. But you guys all know what happened. Scrappy's decided to leave, as well as Envoy, forming a completely new roster with Kleenex and Insight remaining on the team. And joining them is going to be Beans and Joe Deceive. So, starting off, I have to say, I think it's quite obvious. It's definitely a downgrade from last year. No disrespect to the rest of the team, but when you have someone like Scrappy leaving, who in my opinion is the best AR in the CDL era since his debut for sure, I think you're obviously going to get a downgrade, right? Because you're not upgrading on him. Envoy, yes, his performance last year wasn't amazing, but as a player, I think Joe is a great player. Joe Deceives a great player, but again, I don't think you're getting an upgrade necessarily. Maybe last year you could say Joe played better, especially towards the end of the year, but as a player overall, I won't say you're upgrading here. So you're looking at a very linear approach here. If not, you're going for a bit of a decline here. So you got to say, you know, I'm not exactly over the moon with the roster, but the way everything else shaped up, I think this roster is a very, I would say it's very close to being the fourth best roster. There's a few kind of competitors. I will say the Cloud9 roster is very up there, very much up there as well for me personally, in terms of a competitor for fourth. But then this roster definitely has the potential. Let's go through it. Let's break it down. Starting off with the replacement. So what we're losing with Scrappy, what we're losing with Envoy. Well, again, the player Envoy really was, we weren't able to see last year, unfortunately. We weren't really able to see the best version of Envoy, but what we do get from Envoy, for me personally, is like you're getting someone who's going to bring the best out of their sub duo. When he's playing the best, he's going to be that route man. He's going to be doing the dirty work. He's a very clutch player and very reliable. I think reliable is a great word to use for someone like Envoy. Since his debut, since, you know, not even his debut, but since playing for like Optic Chicago and since playing for the Huntsman, am I tweaking? Huntsman, yeah. Since playing for them, since playing for the Thieves roster, like he's always been a very consistent, reliable SMG, and he gets the job done, and he always makes the rest of his team play better. Again, last year, I don't think we saw the same Envoy that we're used to seeing, which was unfortunate. I don't know why that happened, especially with the team they had. I feel like they really had the ingredients to shine, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. But let's move on from last year and focus on this year. What we're getting with Joe, let me not move all over the place. Sorry, let me start one by one. So let's start with Joe and Envoy. I think Joe Deceives, from what I've seen personally, he has a very high skill gap. I think when he joined the league under LAG, when he joined that team with Exceed, Assault, when he joined that kind of academy team, I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay, nothing crazy, but I believe it was 18 at the time, first of all. Second of all, I think they kind of got thrown in the deep end, and they just never really progressed from there. And then we saw all this stuff where, you know, with RTTs came on the roster, and they just didn't really show off in terms of as a roster. No one really seemed to be improving, and it looked like he was kind of in the dirt. But this year on Thieves, there were certain times where he was really showing out, and he could show that he could be a very consistent SMG in the right environment. I do believe that Thieves year, just overall, was a great year for him to develop. The challengers, Thieves, just overall, I think that was a great year for him to develop into the player he's become now. And I think we saw the peak and the potential at EWC of what this player can become. I really think even that grand finals, the way he played against FaZe, I remember that high-res control was like, this guy's final. There's not a lot of players in the league that can just show off like FaZe again, like show off against FaZe like that. I know people think, oh, it's just a one-off thing, but you got to remember, this is a grand finals for $100,000 or whatever it was. Like, this wasn't just a random scrim. This was like the peak of the esports for the season. This was after champs. This was for the EWC title, and the way he played in that grand final shows me this guy has great gun skill and great potential. So I do think you're going to get a good complementing player for what's his name, bro? I'm losing for Kleenex. I do think Kleenex and Joe could make a good little duo here. I really do. I think the pacing will be good. I think the aggression, the pacing set as an SMG duo, especially as we head into Black Ops 6, I really do believe we're going to need some, like, we're going to need aggression and pace on our subs. And I actually like the way they're going to play together. And I think they could have a very high ceiling. Then we go through and we look at our replacement. We have Beans for Scrappy. Starting off, I have to say it's a downgrade. I just have to. No matter who you get in the league, it's always going to be a downgrade on Scrap, unless you're going for another S-tier AR, someone like a, you know, Celium, a Dashi, someone like that. But Beans is definitely no slack. Beans is definitely not bad, don't get me wrong. He can definitely put up numbers. For me, I will say the best version of Beans is a way less consistent Scrap. And this is what scares me a little bit, because we saw that this Toronto Ultra team, they really had to like rely on Scrap to compete at the very top of the level. And I just believe that this roster now you're going to need Beans to fry first of all, but even then you're not really upgrading on anything else. So that's why I feel like this roster is definitely going to come short of the top 3. I don't really see a lot of upset potential. Sure, they can maybe take a series off a team, but I just don't see this team winning an event, unfortunately. And it's a shame. It really is a shame, because I don't want to look at another top 4 roster and say I just don't see them winning an event, right? Ideally, we have a few rosters competing, but right now I do believe it's a top 3 league. I do think this team can develop throughout the year. In terms of game modes as well, I feel like Beans and Insight in terms of a duo is kind of a weird one. I feel like their pacing is very different, which kind of works out as an AR duo. And I think Insight, normally I would say he needs to like add some speed, but I really do believe right now in this game, the way it's going to be played, I think this could work for this team. It really depends on, for me, if Beans can play to his potential. It really comes down to that. I think we've seen Beans have those maps where he's taken over and he's slaying, and I think we've seen glimpses of him. I remember in Modern Warfare 2, I think it was LSELO, and he dropped like 17 against Optic and S&D. I'm like, bro, what? Like, it was like his debut or something. I'm like, this guy can slay out. This guy can really slay out. Again, I'm not just using one series as an example. It's just kind of what comes to my head when I'm thinking of this stuff. And it's like, I really do believe this team has the potential on paper to be the 4th best team. If everything clicks, if they start to really work together with their teamwork and, you know, things gel together, sure, why not? Why can't they compete against a top 3? For me personally, I just don't see it happening. I think we're living in a bit of a fairy tale if we think they're going to compete with the top 3. I still think they can compete for 4th. I really do. I think they've got 4th. Them and Cloud9 are quite close in terms of the 4th best team. I think one thing I will say is CleanX, man. CleanX can be him in this roster. I really do believe that. With Scrap going as well, I feel like CleanX has like kind of the license to just be him on this roster. I feel like CleanX was unbelievable the last few years. This year, again, for his standard, I will say he definitely dropped. And I think he needs to look at it and say, yo, I am him, bro. Like, he can be a top 5 SMG in the game. We've seen it in the past. We've seen how good CleanX can really be. And I feel like in a game like Black Ops 6, with the aggression, the pacing set on the map, I think this could be CleanX's year to really take over. If Beans can step up on the slaying, we get a better version of CleanX, a better version of Insight. And Joe Deceives, to be honest, he could definitely play better this year than Envoy did last year. If those variables go through, again, a lot of variables, but if those variables go through, I can see this team being the consistently 4th best team in the game. As the year progresses, if they really work on those fundamentals, really work on that teamwork, I can see them potentially catching one of the other top 3 teams. Again, for me, they're just on another level, a little bit above for me right now. So I can't really put them in the top S tier, but I'm going to put them at the bottom of the A tier, near the B tier for me personally. I think this Toronto team's got the potential, and I really hope they show out. But YouTube, let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like this roster? Before I end it there was one thing I think could have made more sense personally. I think Sib and CleanX, they had to go together here. For me, this offseason, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, if you want a team to compete with the top 3, I really thought Sib and CleanX together would have been the answer. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out in a few months as the year progresses, but I really believe that would have taken over, and that definitely could have had a chance to compete with the top 3. But this roster I'm going to put as a comfortable 4/5 spot. And yeah, let me know what you guys think down below. If you guys agree, if you guys disagree, I want to hear your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you guys for another video tomorrow. Peace.